Hello, everybody. I'm Luke Stone. This is the Comics Project, and today we're going to come at you with a pretty important uh, bit of information today. It's about writing a pitch, and I have a special guest with me, John Powell. John, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
They said they're doing fine, so let's let's go from there. Now, John, tell us a little bit about yourself. What exactly are you working on right now?
Well, I'm trying to rebrand an old property. It was originally a property that kind of got tainted when the Seth MacFarlane Ted movie came out because I had a little robot bear, a robot disguised as a bear. So I'm trying to rebrand that and get rid of the bear thing. Also taking him out of the lead role. It's sort of a Lost in Space meets Doctor Who type thing.
Okay, all right. Well,
Other than that,
you've got some other things going on too, don't you? You said something about a haunt school or scare school. What is that?
yes, I teach a haunt acting class for people who are interested in acting in haunted attractions, haunted house, or something like that. Even if you want to do a horror movie, this is great for anybody who's interested in haunt acting or just the psychological effects of fear and how we work through it. And you can find that on Outschool, Haunt Acting with John Powell, or you can check me out on Facebook at Professor Powell.
Awesome. Okay, and you've also been doing a podcast you're starting up, right? Is that tell us about where we can find that at?
Yeah, just John M. Powell 01 on Facebook. That's just sort of a personal uh, project that I've got going on, trying to entertain friends. My son, who is 15, is very interested in getting into podcasting, and we want to just kind of review some old movies and see what his takes are on these things. Just any topical information, the whole Spider-Man issue that's going on right now between Sony and Marvel, Disney/Disney. Everybody's talking about that, and so that's just something I wanted to get on and have discussions about.
Cool. All right. Well, make sure to check out John and all the other things he's doing. The point of our video today, that this week, that we're going to be putting out here, is all about the kind of like the pitch to publishers. So there's a lot of guys and gals out there, kind of like you, kind of like me, that are wanting to put together books, and we run through the idea of maybe self-publishing, doing it all ourselves, or trying to work with a small imprint. I mean, obviously, we would like to get some of our books picked up by these bigger places like, Image, Dynamite, places like that. But no matter where you're pitching to, you do have to kind of create this pitch, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And so we just want to go over today some pitch things because John has got a really cool story idea, but it seems like when he pitches it, it comes across as like, well, I don't get it. And so we're gonna try to kind of work through that a little bit and hopefully edit this down to a watchable kind of a watchable time. But so maybe not everything we talk about will be in here, but we'll try to cover as much as we can and kind of feature bits and pieces of your story in context of how to do an elevator pitch and kind of do a pitch to a comic. Kind of a comic publisher of any size, really. So you kind of gave a little bit of your pitch at the beginning of the video when we started talking. But here's what I found is that all of us love and are passionate about our stories. But we're writers and we're creators. Writers are good at using words. Artists are good at using pictures. We're not good at marketing usually. If that's typically my thing, and in fact I think marketing sucks. I hate doing it. It is exhausting, and it never gives me the result that I want. I mean, I think, hey, here's my child, I love it, this wonderful thing I've created, and I expect people to eat it up just like I do, but many times they're like, why should I like that? So I actually ran, some people might know that I ran a small imprint called Tenacious Comics for about 2 years before I joined on with Starcross Comics. And I would get pitches all the time, and I didn't know how to write a pitch until I looked at pitches. And so here's a couple of things that we want to talk about. First off is the elevator pitch. Most of the people that we're going to have contact with when we write a pitch We are not going to have an hour to sit down and discuss our story as much as we would love to. We've got to try to grab people in a couple of sentences, really. And so, for instance, we had a guy once that had on Tenacious Comics, who had a book that was kind of hard for people to get at first. And he really kind of hated using this example, but we would say, hey, the book is Inception meets The Matrix. He hated that because he didn't want people to think of his book like Inception or The Matrix, because it was original. It was different than that. It wasn't quite that. But that helped people understand right away that, oh, that's the kind of story that I'm reading. It's going to have those kinds of elements in it, even though it's not that exactly. So if you want to say something, do something visually, and that's what you're trying to plan, then maybe say include the visual element of is like Firefly or something like that. Say it's going to be like, so Firefly. Now, as far as the story, you said something about Doctor Who, right?
Yeah, Lost in Space meets Doctor Who. So there's not a lot of control or planning going on, but there is time travel and alien, space stuff going on.
So that is kind of that's a great way to start off an elevator pitch, to be honest with you. It's like, hey, it's Doctor Who meets Lost in Space with the vibe of Firefly. That gives me, as a customer and as a publisher, a perfect idea of what this story is all about. Like, well, not really what it's all about, but what it's going to feel like. And I'm going to know right away whether or not that's for me. So I like to start off my elevator pitches with that kind of like I'll put in my title, and then I'll say it is Doctor Who meets Lost in Space with a Firefly vibe. That way they would have kind of that idea, and right away it kind of sets that pace. And now this paragraph, the next few sentences are going to be the most important sentences that you're going to write, because you're going to give the potential reader, you're going to give the potential publisher the briefest of overviews on understanding what your story Fairburn is all about. Okay?
Fairburn is the name of the ship that this crew has used. In the very beginning, the Fairburn is a freighter ship. It is armed to the teeth by in disguise, so that the crew of the Fairburn, who are actually freedom fighters, infiltrate the mothership of an invading army. They blow up the mothership, and in the wake of this explosion, they are thrown into time and space, flung into time and space with no direction, and they are lost.
Okay, so your elevator pitch, all of that you said has to be condensed somehow into the most interesting things about the story. The crew is lost in time and space without a compass. Okay? That right there is the most, that's probably the most interesting part and probably the most important part about your story. The fact that they're freedom fighters is important. The fact that it's a freighter that's armed to the teeth, but it was in disguise, is something that I can learn in the story, and I should learn in the story. It's not something I need to know from the elevator pitch. What I need from the elevator pitch is that this is a crew of freedom fighters that's been that has gotten lost in time and space. It's like, oh, okay. So that right there kind of covers the basis of what the story is going to be. So then the next thing is, why should I care that they've been lost in time and space? So a hero is only as good as their antagonist, right?
Yes.
Would anybody like Batman without Joker? Tell me about your antagonist.
Along their journey to try to find their way home, they happen upon an evil entity called Jaloth. They thwart Jaloth, and Jaloth wants revenge. And in doing so, Jaloth traps them in the streams of time and goes back in time with the threat of destroying their younger selves, so that he never has a problem. Once on their Earth, our Earth, proper Earth, Jaloth learns of Jesus Christ and has this idea that they'll go back in time and stop the crucifixion and doom all humanity and cancel out salvation. So there's sort of a chase to try and get to Joloth before Joloth gets to Calvary, and so there's a big chase there, and that's sort of the first story arc is trying to get to Joloth in that. And I won't give away the ending, but it doesn't go well for Joloth.
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, any of us that are, and so I like the idea that this has a faith-based bend to it, even though it's not really a Christian comic, but it does pull in the idea of faith, and that, so there's a really cool opportunity for you to reach that kind of market, and it's also a really cool opportunity for you to be able to share the fact that it's that there can be some theological stuff in there about grace, and kind of the supreme power of God to forgive, even. So your crew, tell me about your crew.
We have Captain Dai Young, who is a technological whiz and ace pilot. She's the only character who doesn't have any powers, but she is the most capable and tactical of the group.
Okay.
Crack shot with a laser. She helps in reprogramming Terran extermination droid that was sent to Earth to kill them, and they now call this their time exploration droid. Ted is the ship's robot and protector of the crew, kind of a watchdog.
Okay.
There is
so there's
Griffin.
More people in the crew. How many people are in the crew total?
4 humans.
Okay, so there's four. So there's 4 people in the crew. Yeah. You might mention there's 4 people in the crew. It includes an android type character. How would you classify this android type character? Is it more Star Wars android? Is it more Lost in Space android? Is it like what kind of?
He's much more like the Lost in Space android
Okay.
as far as function and capability. He's an extremely powerful robot.
Yeah.
And he's small and cute, and I wanted to make him the merchandisable.
So there you go. Maybe include that in the pitch. That the crew is made up of 4 people. Don't go into great detail about the crew yet. Your elevator pitch shouldn't have that. But your first few sentences about this is what the story is. It has a faith-based lean to it. The antagonist is this. Our protagonist is this. So it's a crew of 4 people. It includes a reprogrammed assassin droid or whatever. Don't use the terms from your comic. Use terms that people will know. That way they can connect with it right away. Okay. Once you've done that, then include after that elevator pitch. I would include, okay, this is the merchandisable part. You say, look, I've got a strong female lead who's human without powers, but she's the most capable member of the crew. And then mention, and so the other crew members might be important, but the main character is going to be the most important. And if you're kind of your backup character, you can do little quick descriptions of each one. I'm talking 1-sentence descriptions of these characters, because as a publisher, I didn't want homework. So it's what it feels like when you're getting like 1 or 2 of these pitches a day. It starts to feel like homework. So you want to make it really easy for them. Okay. Include this, and then include, hey, here's some marketability aspects. These are the pros with this storyline. It connects with people that are into things like Doctor Who and time and space. It has a strong female lead. It has a cute robot that's very marketable. I would put in there what kind of rating you're expecting this to have. Is this for mature audience? Like, who is your audience? Is it like grown-ups? Is it kids? Now, the other thing is a lot of people will include art, and here is the most important thing that I think that anyone writing a pitch needs to know. Put your best piece of art forward. Even if that means that you have to commission it from someone. Now, the publisher's going to want to be able to see what is inside of the book, and we'll get to that in just a second. But put your best foot forward. Make sure that what they see is something that is eye-catching, whether you've done it or whether you've commissioned a piece for like a cover or something like that. Give them an idea of what kind of marketing pieces they're going to have. So put that piece in the front. Anything that you kind of half-stepped, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do any kind of, those kind of like half-drawn things like, oh, here's a quick thing. Be very intentional about the work that you're going to put in there. as a publisher, they want to see two things. They want to see a sample script. Usually it's between 5 to 8 pages in most of the pitches that I've heard of, most of the publishers that I know of. And they want to see those pages drawn. They don't necessarily have to be colored or lettered, but they have to be drawn. And here's the thing. So, a little inside note for anyone, my opinion was whenever I got a pitch, if the first 8 pages was the elevator pitch, I threw it out. Now, Stan Lee did a great job because on Spider-Man, because think about it, there was 11 pages of Spider-Man that introduced the character, and everything we know about Spider-Man was drawn in those 11 pages. Those 11 pages was an elevator pitch to the entire world about his character. That was a completely different thing. So if you're drawing a 8-page comic to elevator pitch your characters, then that's one thing. But that's not your first issue. That would be like a issue 0, or it would be called an ash can. So that is possible. I have had someone send me an 8-page finished comic of their elevator pitch. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But in any sense, I want to know that you've got a story beyond your pitch. That you've got something beyond those few sentences that have drawn me in. Show me that it really is Doctor Who meets Lost in Space with a Firefly vibe. So include the script. So I need to see that you can write a script, that you've been able to do that, and then get the sequentials in, because the most important thing is your sequential work. So the other thing that you're going to want to include is a list of your roster. Who's on your team, who's part of your production team. Because if I've gotten past the elevator pitch, the initial art, I've looked at the sample script, and I've looked at the sequential art, and I'm like, okay, I like this. Now I want to know who's working on the project. If you have a big name in your project, you might want to include that earlier, because maybe the project, not the story is selling so much as the people working on it. If you come to me and say, hey, I've got Rob Liefeld drawing this thing, I'm like, okay, let's talk, But if, you go, hey, I've got Luke Stone drawing this, and they're like, who? Let me see his work. What's he look like, So if it's an unknown artist, kind of, someone that no one knows, start with their art. If it's someone that has a reputation, start with their name, so that kind of thing. Whatever's going to be most impressive in that sense. Usually if they've got a well-known name, they've got good art too. So, but if someone has a name recognition, go ahead and use that in your pitch. It definitely helps. It doesn't hurt at all. From there, a timeline of production. Let me know, do you have more than one issue written? How many scripts do you have? On the pitch, that first elevator pitch, write it, let people read it, rewrite it, take critique on the art. Say, hey, if you're looking at this for the first time, does it have a wow factor? Does it pop? Don't just throw together a pitch. Spend some time working on it. And you might include individual character designs. Make those one sheets. There are a bunch of different people that do this. They'll create and I've got, I don't have a really good example in front of me, but I've got these things. These are trading cards.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So I have a trading card, and it's got some brief information about it. Something like that with maybe a little more background on it will work, but think about, hey, making something that will fit on a trading card. Yes. Let me see what the character looks like. Let me see what your art looks like. And let me get to know if the characters are going to be marketable. Because if you say that Ted is marketable and he's not, then they're going to be upset. The last thing I'm going to say is never, ever give up. Okay? Just because one publisher doesn't like it doesn't mean that another isn't going to also, that somebody else isn't going to like it, And we have something that maybe some of the viewers out there will have, but most of the creators don't. Most writers don't also draw, but we do both. And so a publisher will easily critique the art because, oh, well, I don't like the art choice you did. It's like, well, that hurts me. It's very personal. You don't understand how many hours I spent trying to get to where I'm at right now, and you're telling me that it's not quite good enough. It can be very personal for the artist when the art gets critiqued.
It's literally like being hit with a rock. Like, I'm gonna get over. Like, that's not. I'm not gonna bleed out. Like, I'm not gonna remember this next week. But right now, it stings.
I had a critique one time from someone that told me they didn't like my art, and I still don't like that guy to this day. I got to ask God for forgiveness on that one, but I can't stand the guy. I'm like, seriously, yeah, that guy right there. I want to thank you for being a part of this today, allowing kind of your process and your journey in this comic creating to be shared with, I don't know, all 12 of the people that will watch it. And maybe one of them will be able to find some kind of encouragement in that and a little bit there. John, has been great talking to you today. I want to have you back on later at some point to maybe do a follow-up to the pitch so that we can actually kind of do some screenshots and show like, okay, here's what we've worked out and this is what the pitch is. And maybe compare the pitch that you emailed me to show me kind of where you started to that one. That way people can be like, oh, okay.
That makes sense, yeah. I want to thank you, Luke. Your consultation has been priceless.
Well, I just, at the end of the day, we want to be good to each other. We want to leave the woodpile a little bit higher than we found it. And, I really honestly think that we all win together. The better you become as an indie creator, the better people will start to look at indie books as not the scourge of the comic book world. Like if you're not distributed in Diamond, you're no good. I don't think that is the case. I believe that some of the best and most creative and most diverse characters and strong characters are coming out of indie creators. I believe in what you've got going. I am excited to see this story develop over time. And so I'm rooting for John, and I'm rooting for the crew of the Fairburn to make its way onto the pages, and so that we can read that. So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you putting yourself out there to create. Okay. So all right, well, that'll be it for us today. Be sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell below, just so that we can. You'll get notified of new things coming out. We try to have a new video out every Friday. So sometimes we'll have some things that come out outside of that. We will be starting to do some book reviews, so independent book reviews, and we'll have different special guests come on with me and look at the comic, and we'll share the comic and read the comic in some cases. But we'll do indie comic book reviews, and then we do a live chat on Monday nights. Not every Monday night, but most Monday nights we get together with Star-Crossed creators, and we just talk comics and things that come to our mind. So again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to catching you guys later. Have a good one.